That's a great way to start the week. Market Watch, finding out what is happening in the markets. You know how we do it here. My name is Frank, and this is Market Watch brought to you by Nairametrics Television. One of the stories up our sleeves right now is the fact that the market, that's NGX, lost a staggering 2.8 trillion naira in just 1 week. And all of this is because of the sentiment. You know how the market reacts to some stories. There are lots of conversations around Trump, threat against Nigeria, and you know who's going to suffer. When two elephants fight, what do you think happens? The grass suffers, and it looks like the grass is our capital market, NGX. We're going to have that conversation on this episode. And then we are also taking a look at what is happening. 5 companies dominated Nigeria's dividend scene in 2025. We're going to find out these 5 companies dominating our dividends scene. And then what is happening with Lagos State? Lagos State has returned to the bond market. Capital market with 200 billion naira 10-year bond that is priced between 16.15% and 16.25% under its 1 trillion naira issuance program. All this conversation, you don't want to miss out. You know how we do it here. Mukhtar Mohammed, it's a great way to start a week. What a Monday morning. You're set for the week. I can see your suit.
Thank you very much. Yeah. My pleasure to be here today. Okay, hopefully the market will smile this week.
Exactly. Idikaja.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Yes, let's see what this will look like. Last week was terrible.
Okay, so let's start. What do you think? How do you think investors should interpret the 2.8 trillion naira? Hopefully, we're going to get to that dollar part in the market. But how do you think investors should interpret the 2.8 trillion naira being wiped out in market value just because of some conversations between 2 power blocks? I want to call Nigeria a power block because we are like the front runner of the African continent and then the front runner of the West. So it's like the grass is suffering and NGX is the grass. Let's talk about that.
And that's why you see sometimes I talk about you looking at the All-Share Index. And so you see it, you said, so you could see by virtue of a lot of portfolios suffer during the week. But again, the All-Share Index in its totality is still very, very fine at 48-point-something% return year, you know.
You always find a way
but
to
again, but again, you look at the market generally, what has happened, you have just said it all.
Yeah.
News. Investors have a way of perception about the particular news. We are getting 2 news I think are really running the market where it is today. You look at the Trump news. For me, that is a flash on the pan as far as I'm concerned. That's personally for me, because again, when you look at what he was trying to do, we don't tend to look at it critically, and that's why sometimes we just tend to look at it one-sided. This is a person that has actually helped Nigeria in the area of. Is the person that actually helped Nigeria in the area of fighting terrorism.
Yeah.
He was the only president that gave us the fighter jet, and he was saying that he was going to see how he's going to make sure that he deals with terrorists. He wasn't going to attack Lagos and Abuja. And I don't know which of the companies are located in the Zambiza forest or plateau that he will attack and it will affect their production line or other things. For me, it was going to attack the terrorists, which could have been an advantage for us, especially if you look at our microeconomic issues where farmers have not been able to go to farms and all these things. So it would have been positive. It depends on where we are. Like I said, the handlers of the president, the special advisor, also did not handle matters like this. Some state governors also did not handle matters. The speaker, the speaker of the House of Representatives also coming out to say Donald Trump should apologize to Nigeria. They need to look at the bigger picture. So those also have a way of drawing sentiment to the market, and that is what, because your response to a situation like that help the investors look at how confident you are in handling issues. So I don't think we've been able to do that. Secondly, the capital gain tax. There's still no clarity on that. Today we're having a meeting on it. Tomorrow, the capital gains tax will not affect retail investors. If you do a advance of 150 million, you will not be affected. Tomorrow again, there's another way out it. So what you're saying now, a lot of investors are looking at exiting the entire capital market and coming in later on without. So you're coming in at a price and said, okay, I want to see how we'll be able to. They will be able to tax me 30% out of the. So everybody is putting the strategy. And for me, I think the tax law, in as much as it's something that we need to do, you also need to look at a sector that has been the key driver of your economy, the only success story, you need to also give them leverage. From this tax law, Indika will correct me if it has not been there before. I think it has been there. Maybe it's 10% or whatever. Maybe we're not so much, but raising it to about 30% for the start for me is too much on the high side. It's a tall order. If we have started maybe from 10 to 15% and say within the next 3 to 4 years, depending on the environmental climate, just like you are trying to do in the petroleum tax, you say we'll pay for them, but you have to make sure that there's stability, the exchanges and that in them before you begin to think about that. And what the capital market has been able to achieve for the Nigerian economy as it stands now is huge. When you look at FX stability, oil price is low. What has made the reserve to continue to grow the way it is because of the inflow of portfolio investors in the capital market. We mustn't forget that. So if you begin to dry up that space, it will have a way of affecting the exchange rate. I don't know where the chairman of the tax reform will say investors are calling them all over the world and they are excited about it. I don't know how excited they could be because I don't see any foreign investors that will be looking at a country that you pay 30% capital gain on your profit. As it stands now, I don't know. Maybe Indika is the man with the numbers. I don't know which country does that. We need to find out which country does a 30% capital gain on equity market or. We need to find out.
Idika, I'd love you to brush up the whole story between Trump and Nigeria and how it's affected the market. But a major focus should be the CGT, the capital gain tax. What is your take about that? And because 30%, is that not so much of a tall order?
Well, I think Mukhtar has already captured the whole essence.
Yeah,
he did very well on that, and I think the drop, the decline, the loss we saw last week, more or less like a sign of structural repricing, and not basically on fundamental, because earnings are still very, very strong. Fundamentals are very, very strong. It's just the impact of uncertainty, like you really mentioned. I don't want to dwell on Trump's threat, let's say, so to say, threats, because if you look at the Euro bond that was issued last, it was oversubscribed, even though the rate were high. Very, very high. I said it last time because all these things are going to be factored in because country risk. Because
before you continue on the Euro bond, I think last week on this program we were talking about the Euro bond I think it was on the Wednesday show, and Idika was saying about the Euro bond going for about 6% or thereabout. That that was we were supposed to go in for. At the end of the day,
he went in. I mentioned it. I said because of these uncertainties, that it's likely that if I'm going to buy, at least I would demand a higher rate. I know exactly what happened.
So when the government is celebrating about oversubscription, nobody is looking at the numbers behind the oversubscription.
It's very, very high.
It's very high.
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
Yeah,
it's expensive. That tells you that we are having investors are beginning to see Nigeria as a high risk investment destination.
Exactly. I said it last week that because of this threat here and there, it's likely that the Euro bond is likely to be priced at a higher rate, and that's exactly what happened. Well, anyway, that is by the way. But I think the issue, we should probably look at it from the angle of people are taking locking in profits. Because, like he said, Mukhtar said that at 48%, it's still solid. At 48% year to date gain, it is still okay. So, at times when you invest in so at times you to get a point and you feel that you are super rich and you like to offload. So that could be another reason too why you are having that decline. So people might decide to say, okay, let me just take in my profit. And again, he mentioned it too. This CGT is another thing because, fine, for retail investors who are not going to trade anything above 150 million naira, yes, they are secured. But for institutional investors, even for foreign portfolio investors that are likely to trade above that 150, it's a concern for them. And some of them would like to say, okay, let me just cash out for now, like Muta already pointed out, and wait and see what happens after January. So that is the thing.
So do you think that if they're waiting, how do you think this will affect the market generally? Do you think the market is going to bounce back after January? Do you think they're still going to come back into the market. What's your take about that?
Yeah, if the uncertainties, if the uncertainties are corrected, are made certain, yes, you're likely to bounce back, but otherwise it will go into deeper loss.
So let's move on to some other conversations around still on this story. For foreign portfolio investors, how significant do you think is the combination of tax risk? Look at tax risk and the geopolitical threat, because it's like two major events happening in one quarter. One threat, another tax risk, 30%. Are you bullish on our markets?
Frank, like I've said, I don't think any shrewd investor will see Nigeria as a geopolitical risk based on what Trump said. Because like I said, it should also be a good call that finally we are having somebody that is saying is going to help us fight this bandit. And I've said it over and over. If there's any man that I have zero tolerance for terrorists, whatever name you call them, it has been Donald Trump. In his first term in office, he was the only president that agreed to send Nigeria 12 fighter jets, which was not agreed by the then President Barack Obama. That is one. Secondly, Trump also was the one that went all out for ISIS and brought ISIS to their knees. So you must give him credit when it comes to the fight against terror. He sees this as a global fight. Yes, I may come with some other interpretation. We call it, is it Christian genocide or whatever. But what we are seeing is that there's a fight and it's going to be against the people that have tried to destroy this nation. Yeah. So for me, he's not coming to bomb Lagos, he's not coming to bomb Abuja, he's going right into the hinterland where these people are stationed, where he has, they have the intelligence. So all of a sudden, it seems to be like we are beginning to wake up. The president is beginning to say, we are going to deal with it, we are going to go all out for them. Where were we doing before? Do we need a wake-up call to do that? So for me, that is not the risk for foreign investors. That's what I'm going to. There are two risks to foreign investors. You have said one, the capital gain. It's a big, big risk to them. Why is it a big risk for them again? Don't forget, they also have the FX challenge, the FX volatility, no matter how we see it. We don't know whether we have finally reached that stability of FX rate. Because we don't know. Because again, if anything major happened to the global economy, we are back to these FX challenges. And when you look at our reserves is not so buoyant enough, even with our $45 billion. It's not buoyant enough to shield us from any major global economic issue that will happen. Even if we are not anticipating anymore. But again, as an investor, you can't price that in because it could be a black swan event that just happened. Yeah. So for me, I think the major risk is their capital gain and the FX challenge. The capital gain is a risk because when you are saying how much profit will I make for you to move up there, and what was the cost of my borrowing? What was the cost of funding? What was the cost of bringing those funds into Nigeria? What is the cost in exiting it? Out to that 30%? Is it worth coming to? That for me is a big challenge. And if you are saying retail investors, how much can retail investors drive this market? Me and Indika, we've talked about retail investor one. Why you've not seen the longest bullish runs that you have always seen is because we have retail investors that are always looking for means to use to go to the market to bring out one or two things that they need, to get funds to handle one or two issues that they need. And like I've said again, if you look at foreign investors that are coming to Nigeria, you realize, like I said, they have been able to bring stability to our FX market because of the liquidity that they bring in. You shouldn't forget that. If we are dealing with only retail investors, the exchange rate will not be where it is today. So we should know. So when we are coming up with policies, we should look at the bigger picture. The bride of the Nigerian economy today is the stock market. It's the bride. It's the only place that Tinubu administration economic policy have hit the ground running. So people are interested in that space. So I think, in as much as I have a strong sense of belief that this whole issue might not kick up in January, I have that strong belief. I don't know where I'm coming from, but I know from my instinct doesn't fail me. I don't think we have that because we are still going. There's still a lot of conversation around this thing, even up to this moment. There's still not being clarity. The Stockbrokers Association of Nigeria is meeting the tax reform team tomorrow. The tax reform team is meeting this, is meeting that. There's still no clarity. A lot of people are still writing about the taxing and there's no clarity yet. We need clarity. We need clarity.
Yeah, I agree with him. I think what we have to do is this. The data are there. At least as at August this year, the foreign participation did very well, even more than what they did in the whole of 2024. I think we should use that as a yardstick. Now we have moved into the last quarter of the year, so let's wait and see what happens. Both the inflow and the outflow from NGX from that angle. When we get that, we'll be able to know. But the only thing I'm pleading and saying that the policy makers, they should be able to adjust immediately when they see the raw data coming out. Okay, this is the position. This is where we were. Now, after this thing, now look at where we are now. So it can now help us. Because I agree with him. I really believe that the CGT is most likely going to affect foreign participation, and the gains we've made, especially this year, if we don't take time, we'll lose it. Because if you are telling me that, okay, if I execute a transaction more than 150 million naira, the proceeds from it, we are going to tax it
30%.
150 million. Yeah. We are going to tax it. So it definitely is a discouragement as far as I'm concerned. Do you get the point?
Absolutely.
It's a discouragement as far as I'm concerned. So if you are going to tax it, yes, for retail investors, not likely to be affected, but for institutional investors, PFS, insurance, all those institutional investors, and the foreign investors who are likely to move out. Because I always said it's the most important thing in the stock market is your entry and exit without a conference.
And Indika, again, one thing they are also not looking at, it's a critical time in the first quarter of the year where the recapitalization of the banking sector is still up. And most of them are depending on this foreign participation in the equity market also. I mean, in our banks, in our foreign banks to raise capital.
But many of them have been able to hit it.
You think so many of them. There are still others that remember that we've not got a complete synergy of all the banks as it stands today officially. All the fugas, not all the fugas.
Just excluding one.
No. As it stands today officially, we only know that Access, Zenith, and GTCO.
Yes, you see how UBA.
We still have UBA. We still have First Bank.
First Bank.
If you talk about the fuga.
Yeah, the other ones like Stanbic, Wema, FCMB is still in the market. Fidelity
are still there.
So they're still there.
So there's still a lot of, so we also have to look at that also when you are talking about all this, the capital gain and everything.
And it's not only the listed, not only the listed banks. So you still have banks that are not listed that must comply.
Yeah,
again, let's get it clear. We are not against taxation. We are not saying against taxation. So that you don't think Nairametrics Television is saying government should not tax. No, that's not what we are saying. Tax will come with a human face, especially with the kind of critical condition that the Nigerian economy is now. When you are depending on people with what we call tax, using tax, in the developed world, Indika I stand to be corrected. We have moved from tax as a means of revenue to tax as a means to grow your economy and create jobs. And that is where good tax holiday comes into play. Some businesses, some countries are striving today because of the tax holidays that they were able to give established companies. Remember, tax holiday will only deal with the company, but will not deal with the workers that are employed. They will have to pay their taxes.
Very true.
So at the end of the day, it's a win-win for the government. They need to think this thing through. 5
companies are dominating Nigeria's dividend in 2025. They've dominated the scene in 2025, offering investors strong cash returns. And all of this is against the backdrop of market volatility. What's your take about that? Which metrics do you think that investors should use to evaluate the sustainability of companies' dividend? Is it payout ratio? You think free cash flow?
earnings?
Yeah, dividend is very, very important. Together with capital gains, unlike what they are going to tax anyhow. You understand? So I think there are metrics you have to really use to determine sustainability. One is the payout ratio over the years. How sustenance, how have you been able to sustain your payouts? Has it been, especially what we know as a compound annual growth rate? What is the compound annual growth rate? Has it been consistent? Is it high? That is one metric you can use to show, okay, this thing you can sustain. Because if I've been paying, growing my dividend payouts at a compound annual growth rate of at least for 5 years, 30%, then you know it's sustainable. Yes, I've been able to sustain this thing and it is okay. That is the first one. Then you now look at it. The most important is, you pay dividend through your cash flow. So you look at what we call the free cash flow. The free cash flow means when you look at your cash flow, deduct the capital expenditure, you now get your free cash flow. So is that free cash flow strong enough? It is only from there that you can now pay dividend. Not necessarily from your accounting paper profit, net profit. So you look at the free cash flow. That means after adjusting for capital expenditure, what is left will now tell you, okay, the company will be able to pay dividend. Then you look at earning growth. How strong the company is in terms of increasing his earnings and stability.
So, what's your take about dividends? Do you think companies did so well this year? Excluding all this.
You see, when your economy is going through what our economy is going through, cash is king. And when cash is king, then dividend is the vehicle that bring the cash.
Even in any economy, even if you're
dividend is very, very important because for me, at least I like dividend paying stock, especially in the situation we are. Even given the situation, even given what is happening right now, people are locking in profit. So at least you equally have to look at dividend paying stocks. So for me, it is okay. It's very, very important.
Indika is a typical Nigerian investor. A typical Nigerian investor is driven by dividends.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the truth.
Yes.
You remember when this issue came up that banks will not pay dividends, knew what happened. Today, some stocks are suffering because of that dividend payment. They didn't pay dividend. Not that their books were bad. Even after even their third quarter result is very good. But nobody is looking that if you did not pay dividend, are you sure you are going to pay? You will be able to pay us again?
Yes.
So Nigerian investors are largely driven by dividends. The average Nigerian investor is a dividend-driven investor. So they don't look at their capital gain. They look at what comes into them because like they say, capital gain is until you sell before you realize
it's uncertain too.
It's uncertain. But when you talk about dividend, when you say you are going to pay and today, before now, you may have to wait for 6 months. But thank God for innovation from SEC. You are saying you are paying on the 11th and the 11th I'm getting my dividend that day. People use it to plan. To also reinvest into the market or sometimes use it to meet up a lot. Look at retirees. Also, they see dividend paying stock as their cash cow. That is why if you go and look at some particular company in the consumer goods sector, if you look at Nestle, you realize that those shares are always not so much available for people to sell because it's held by some of the most retirees. They are using it to pay good dividend. So they are there. The banking sector, Zenith Bank, it has been one stock that has been so consistent in terms of payment of dividend over the years. And to even make matter very interesting, they even increased it by 25%.
Yeah, to 1.25. That is their interim dividend. The interim dividend.
So for me, dividend. Me personally, I love dividends. I'm a typical Nigerian investor. I love
Mukta
dividends.
say you love dividend.
But US
And you
love
always
it.
say you can't love dividend. You love dividend too.
Idika is a dividend. Is a dividend paying man and fundamental man.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Fundamental, you know, like to support what he said.
Yeah.
I think we are going to see more because for this financial year 2020, I think we've had about 22 companies.
Yeah, true.
Paying not you know that at times some people will pay maybe in 2025 for 2024 financial year. We are talking of dividend paid for 2025 financial year, both interim and final. So we have about 22 companies that have paid in dividend for 2025 financial year, and we know very well there are some companies that they don't pay interim dividend, like Boa, Dangote, Boa Cement, Boa Food, Dangote. They pay final dividend, and we are expecting that by the end of the year, maybe next year, they will not pay final dividend for year 2025. So it's equally add to what you mentioned to the expected correction on what we are seeing now, because people will start maybe towards the end of the year, maybe by December, taking positions against that expected dividend.
And the lower the price, they be better the dividend.
Because that will give you the dividend. The lower the price, the higher the dividend. The higher the dividend, though it is not good to have a higher dividend yield because of a drop in price.
Lagos State has a...
You know, Indika was saying something about the stocks that pay dividend. You mentioned Dangote. I didn't know where her largest changed that. Every quarter. Every quarter. I mean, not every quarter. Every quarter. He used to pay dividend when Dangote came to the market. Yeah, he used to pay dividends. You didn't have to wait a year. He started every first quarter we have dividend, second quarter we have dividend, third quarter we have dividend, we have dividend. But I think what happened that time is that investors were not really seeing the significance of it. So they said, okay, if you put all together, let's pay year, and investors seem to be more excited about it.
The king now is Seplat. Seplat is leading with I think total dividend of about 150.
They have to lead now.
152
Look at
billion.
their unit price.
152 billion. So 152 billion. And if you calculate it, both in absolute number, they are leading, and overall they are leading. Okay. So because you know they pay quarterly dividend, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and by the time they move to final quarter, they are likely to pay
Alaji
too.
used to do that. Alaji, please, if you are watching.
So on a final note, I think this is just a one-liner question. What's your take? Lagos State is in the market again, 200 billion. They're coming to capital market, 10-year bond, and it's priced at 16%, and even 16.15, 16.1, 16.25%. And all of this is under the 1 trillion issuance program. What's your take about it?
My take?
Yeah.
I wish it was one Lagos State company. It was one company that is doing that. That's my take.
How about you?
Fundamental okay, but the price is not too good, because if you compare it with the federal government FGM bond, which is about 4 or 5 years bond, which is about 17%. So this one is going. Let's take 16%. Yeah. And this one is 17%. This one is it's not a risk-free asset. Lagos State bond is not a risk-free asset. Federal government is a risk-free asset. So there should always be a premium. You are a risk premium there. And importantly, the return is lower than inflation. So unless maybe inflation comes down. But for those who want to lock in money in expectation, maybe I think the MPC is meeting this month. Yeah. So likely maybe they will lower rate, which equally continue to drop yield from that fixed income space.
Okay, so let's see what the outcome of that is going to be. Maybe perhaps this is like an indication to what is going to happen in the next MPC. Maybe it's going to be a little bit lower than their yields. And that's how we do it here. Market Watch, brought to you by Nairametrics Television. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. We talk everything regarding the market. I'll see you on the next one. We do this every Mondays and Wednesdays. Cheers.